Hey there, this is Judy Adele, and I am here to do a music reaction video. This time, I know what song I'm actually reacting to, so we're doing a little bit of a double. If everything went right, 5 minutes ago or so, the Tim Minchin version of The Good Book, the animated version, which I did not know existed until very recently, was released, but I'm actually watching that. I haven't seen that yet. I'm actually watching that second and this first, so if I say anything confusing, that's why. This is the live version of Tim Minchin doing The Good Book, and I have not seen this for a really long time. This is probably one of my favorite Tim Minchin songs, so it'll be fun to hear again. All right, let's dive in.
If you're one of those people that finds the sort of bashing of religion and stuff tiresome or offensive, just give me 5 more minutes. Life is like an ocean voyage, and our bodies are the ships. And without a moral compass, we would all be cast adrift. So to keep us on our bearings, the Lord gave us a gift. And like most gifts you get, it was a book. I only read one book, but it's a good book, don't you know? I act the way I act because the good book tells me so. If I want to know how to be good, it's to the good book that I go. Because the good book is a book, and it is good, and it's a book. I know the good book's good because the good book says it's good. I know the good book knows it's good because a really good book would. You wouldn't cook without a cookbook, and I think it's understood. You can't be good without a good book because it's good and it's a book, and it is good for cooking. I tried to read some other books, but I soon gave up on that. The paragraphs ain't numbered and they complicate the facts. I can't read Harry Potter cause they're worshipping false gods and that. And Dumbledore's a poofter, and that's bad cause it's not good. Morality is written there in simple white and black. I feel sorry for you heathens, got to think about all that. Good is good and evil's bad, and goats are good and pigs are crap. You'll find which one is which in the good book, cause it's good and it's a book and it's a book. Yeah.
Sorry, Tim. It's so funny because it's like there's so many. I don't know. I appreciate his. There's like so many things. There's so many things that I could say. There's so many things I'm not sure I should say. And I haven't heard this for a long time. It's like I can remember the words better than hearing them in my own head. But the logic of it's a good book because it's good, and it's a book and it's good, and oh my gosh, yeah. I don't quite know where to go with the circular logic, but anyway, all right, we shall continue.
Find which one is which in the good book, cause it's good and it's a book and it's a book. Yeah, I had a cat, she gave birth to a litter. The kittens were adorable and they made my family laugh. But as they grew they started misbehaving, so I drowned the little fuckers in the bath. When the creatures in your care start being menaces, the answers can be found right there in Genesis. Chapter 6 verse 5 to 7. Yeehaw! Swing your partner by the hand, have a baby if you can. But if the voices in your head say to sacrifice your kid to satiate your loving God's fetish for dead baby blood, it's simple faith the book demands, so raise that knife up in your hands.
How much therapy that poor child must have needed.
Before the good book made us good, there was no good way to know if a thing was good or not that good, or kind of touch and go. So God decided he'd give writing allegoric prose a go, and so he wrote a book, and it was generally well received.
It was generally well received.
The Telegraph said this god is reminiscent of the Norse. The Times said kind of turgid, but I liked a bit with horses. The Mail said lots of massacres, a violent tour de force. If you only read one book this year, then this one is a book, and it is good, and it's a book. Yeehaw! Swing your daughter by the hand, but if she gets raped by a man and refuses then to marry him, stone her to death.
God, I appreciate the way that he can just throw stuff out there. Like I feel like I'm struggling with my words. I just appreciate the way that he can kind of throw stuff out there, the things that are sometimes, I don't know, when it comes obviously to discussing religion, and it's a very challenging thing, especially when you're talking to people who, well, maybe I should say this just to give some credence from my own perspective. I grew up in a Missouri Synod Lutheran home that was not as super strict. You know, we went to church, but we didn't necessarily, do Bible studies and things like that in the middle of the week. Both of my parents had a kind of a history of going to church, is what it almost felt more like to me when I think back on it. It wasn't so much about studying, it was about going to church, but then you have the ideas of what the minister gives you, and that's what you take home with you. And so I grew up in that, and then I basically did my own studying in college and also in things like confirmation and things like that. So I did all of those things. And it's where I actually started realizing, and I mean no disrespect to people, and I, in some ways I don't even feel like I'm being disrespectful to say this, because I know people who what I consider really good Christian people who would agree with me on this statement. But there's a lot of people who, go to church, do the things, say that, tell people what they need to be doing to be religious. But when I realize that they actually don't or haven't read the Bible or know, I found so many surprises about what we didn't learn at church, is maybe the best way to say it. So, and this thinking through some of these things that we learn in a particular way and then thinking about them, that being one of them. And oh my gosh, if you have never read the book, Living the Bible in a Year, I'll have to find the author. It is so worth the read. The audiobook is fantastic, by the way. A.J. Jacobs is the author. A Year of Living Biblically. And I think the rest of the title is like One Man's Humble Request to Live the Bible as literally as Possible. And I know there's all different versions of Christianity. There's almost a version of Christianity for every person who lives it and reads it and and understands it, which is probably in some ways a good thing to an extent. The book is humorous and fantastic and fascinating in its discussions. I just appreciate this song as a thoughtful song, and I'm so curious to know if people have listened to this song and instead of being defensive, if it's got them thinking more deeply, even if there's justification and explanation, but got them more thinking about things in their own head. I think it's a good thing to examine our beliefs and for which those things we are pulling our beliefs from. I appreciate the way he can take a serious, something really hard to talk about. And for some of us, it's, there's family trauma involved or trauma from our experiences that can create a little bit of a levity in humor, which is his job. But I appreciate, again, how he does it so well. And I see that I'm going to have to get Tim a chiropractor or osteopath after leaving him in this position for so long. Sorry.
If you just close your eyes and block your ears to the accumulated knowledge of the last 2,000 years, then morally, guess what? You're off the hook. And thank Christ you only have to read one book. Just because the book's contents were written generations hence by hairy desert-dwelling gents squatting in their dusty tents. Just because what heaven said was said before they'd leavened bread. Just because Jesus couldn't read doesn't mean that we should need when manipulating human genes to alleviate pain or fight disease. When deciding whether it's wrong or right to help the dying let go of life or to stop a pregnancy when it's just a tiny blastocyst, there's no reason why we should take a look at any other book but the good book, cause it's good and it's a book and it's a book and it's quite good. Whoa. That's fine.
He touches on so many things that I just find so fascinating. Like, obviously this song could be an entire philosophy or Bible study class, but yeah, just I don't know, I'm always caught by the line where he talks about the to help the dying let go of life, and thinking about how complex it is, that there is the aspect of we put people on machines medically because we don't letting the person die isn't okay. Putting them on machines is okay. But then if we want to take them off the machine, somebody says, well, we're playing God. When it's like, no, we're playing God by putting them on the machine in the first place. I'm not saying I have an answer. I kind of think people should get what they wanted to do, which isn't always, they should get what they want when they need it. But it's not always easy to know what that is in the moment, right? For especially somebody else. But it's always been so interesting. And yeah, the thing that Tim points out about the whole, there is suffering. It's okay to stone people to death, but when we want to help them let go of life out of suffering or whatever the case might be, that's not okay. So those are things that I've always been trying to grapple with and understand. I recognize that this is probably not exactly the platform to have those discussions, but at the same time, I am kind of curious. I'm curious about what other people think and other people's experiences, and I'm happy for your comments. Again, respectful comments are just fine. But if this all was so easy to grapple with, we wouldn't have it wouldn't be as a complex of an issue, and it wouldn't we wouldn't have wars about religion and all of those things, and complicated whatever. So anyway, all right. Back to Tim and his joyful, cheery, very complex, thoughtful, and fun song.
Whoa. That's fine.
Cause
it's good and it's a book, and it's a book, and it's quite good. Whoa. That's fine.
I didn't quite catch what he said, but I love that he made the mistake. Well, I don't love that he made the mistake. I love that he can make the mistake and just go on and not do a retake or whatever. And that's some fast finger piano playing.
Whoa. That's fine. If good is good and evil's bad and kids get killed when God gets mad, you better take a good look at the good one.
So I probably should add a little piece in here. I grew up Missouri Synod Lutheran, and it wasn't exactly the most healthy religious situation, and some would argue toxic. And some of my friends who are Christian and very well and thoughtful Christians would argue that my growing up experience was fairly toxic. Being in kind of the church environment that I was in, and then just things that even happened to me outside of the church environment, with just some experiences that I had inside church and outside church with people that had nothing to do with my church, but people who claimed they were Christians. So anyway, it just made growing up for me and my view on Christianity a very complex, experiential one. That being said, I know Christians people who are Christian who are very thoughtful in what they do and what they say, and able to talk through some of the complexities. And some of the people that I met earliest in my life of other religions were very, very well educated and about their religion, and could really speak to it in such a different way than I had seen before. So that was just another interesting experience for me when I reflect back on and my views of growing up and my personal experience of religion in general. Yeah, I love this song, again, probably for its thoughtfulness, but I love the upbeat, well put together, as Tim always does, right? Well put together lyrics that are just, there's so much that he crams into a song, and just living inside his head has to just be a trip. And like I said, I love how his making a mistake was just he just goes on with that. I mean, I realize it's a great skill to have, and it's good stage training, and why not, whatever. And I'm always impressed at how much he does not make mistakes. I probably have a lot more I could say about this song, of just the things that intrigue me and are curious to me, and could sit and talk all day about that, especially with other people. But I will leave it there for now. And if you are interested in watching the animated version, I sure am, because at this point I haven't seen it yet. You should be able to catch it right up there. Thank you so much. Take good care. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the other videos that we have. And until next time, enjoy the music. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.